Alright, I've done a lot of PVM teaching in the last few months, and one of the most common things that I've been hearing is people don't know what the defensive abilities do, where they are, or when to use them, or what their names are. So when I'm calling them out in fights, like when I go to teach Raksha, for example, and I say use Freedom, or use Debilitate, or use this, or use that, people don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go over that today. Basically, I have an entire action bar here dedicated to primarily defensive abilities. Obviously, Sacrifice is there as well, which is an HP ability. It's just a basic attack that heals you for a little bit. Not very important, but it's good for building Adrenaline if you have absolutely nothing else to use. Provoke, also not something that you need to use a ton. Essentially, this one just forces a target to target you. So, like, let's say you were the base tank at a boss, I could use Provoke and I could take the aggro away from you if you needed help or if you needed relief for a few seconds. So that's what that's for. We don't really use that in a lot of the PVM scenarios because tanking isn't really that important at most bosses, but it is useful in some places. The other notable ones are on the left side of my screen here. So Debilitate reduces all of the enemy target's damage by 50%. For 7.8 to 13.8 seconds, depending on your shield level. So if you're using Necromancy, and you have a Lantern on, and you have Greater Bone Shield, the highest possible shield you will get is a level 70, which would only give you about 10.2 seconds of that buff. In my case, I'm using a tier 90 shield, that'll give you the full duration of the buff. Reflect, again, reduces your damage taken by 50%. Reflects damage back at the attacker. It's a 9.6 second duration. Both of these are threshold abilities. Same with Devotion. Devotion is also a threshold ability, but in this case it will reduce all of your incoming damage by a certain type of damage that you pray against by 100%. So, for example, I'm taking magic damage, cast Devotion, and I hit my magic prayer, I will not take any damage. One thing people do not know about Devotion is if you kill an enemy, you can extend Devotion's duration. It's very, very good in Slayer. It's very, very good in Elite Dungeons. And it's also good at Osseous and a couple other places that have ad mobs, like Raziel, for example. Although Raziel, you don't really want to pray too much because he takes it off very frequently. But you get the idea. So killing an enemy extends the duration by 4.8 seconds up to a maximum of 19.2. So you get an extra, essentially double the duration. A little bit more than that. 15% adrenaline consumption again. Resonance, Anticipate, and Freedom. Resonance will heal you for some of the damage that you blocked, depending on the level of your shield again. Anticipate will reduce the damage you take by 10%, and will also give you an immunity to stuns that lasts for 10.2 seconds. There are perks you can get that will increase the duration of your Anticipate or reduce the cooldown of your Anticipate. I forget which one it is, but it removes the damage reduction. So that's something to keep in mind for certain niche cases. In my case, I use Clear-Headed perk, which gives me more uptime on my Anticipation at the expense of removing the damage reduction. I use that at Telos because I want to eliminate the possibility of getting stunned by red golems in the final phase. Freedom removes stuns and all binds. Clears damage over time effects. So think the Calphite King when he does the Dismember ability on you. You can clear that. When he does the Onslaught ability on you, you can clear that. Or if you get stunned, say by Ratchet's Tail Swipe, you can get rid of the stun and then have a chance to move around. So, with that in mind, let's go see them in action. So obviously, no food, no armor. We're just going to go in and get hit a couple times, and I'm going to use the abilities so you actually see what they do in real time. So first off, I'm not praying. I'm going to let Raksha hit me once. And that's going to do 2.5k damage. And I reflect, it only does 1.2. If I debilitate on top of that, I'm only taking 700s. And then I can cast my Anticipate, and the Tail Swipe here. Not only will it do reduced damage because of my Debilitate, I also don't get stunned. Now we use Devotion because I'm getting low health, just so I can stop myself from taking any unnecessary damage. I'm going to get stunned here so I can use Freedom, and that will allow me to get out of this little bomb. Because my health is low, I'm going to cast my Resonance. That's going to give me a nice big heal. And then I can use my defensives again. Because I've used both defensives, the tail swipe will not hurt me, so I can just stand here with my Anticipate on, and I still haven't died. Now my health is getting dangerously low, so I can hit a barricade. And that means that for the next 12 seconds, give or take, depending on your shield level, I'm not going to take any damage at all. So I can just sit here, build my adrenaline, and have a good time with Soul Split on. Once again, I'm stunned, so I can hit my Freedom, walk out of that, and go on about my way. Health is low, get a nice Resonance in there again, and you can kind of see the point. Defensives, despite me not doing hardly any damage, are keeping me alive for a very long time in a fight that should be classified as extremely difficult. So now, I'm going to get Magic Nuked, and all I gotta do, cast my Devotion, and this still can't kill me. Even when I didn't have Devotion on, because I used my Debilitate, still alive. So now, despite the fact that I have no food and no armor, I've lasted 2 minutes at a boss that typically, the largest complaint is that he does too much damage. Now, I'm out of options. I have no barricade, I have no defensives of any kind. I'm just going to use my Immortality, and as you see there, what it did is it revived me when I died, but more than that, it also nullified the next incoming attack that I received. Gives me some breathing room. Once again, stunned. I'm just going to Resonance, Freedom, walk away. And that was 2 minutes and 30 seconds of tanking Raksha without use of any food and without the use of any armor or capes, rings, etc., etc. No defense sigil, no healing of any kind, just by using defensive. So they're very, very, very strong, especially for if you have lower DPS, because if you have lower DPS, you're going to be in fights longer. So, the ways to get around this, because obviously you're not going to just stick on a shield the entire time you're in a fight. For the Necromancy ability, or combat style, you get Bone Shield, which is over here. Allows you to use non-offensive abilities, which defensive abilities, via Bone Runes and Spirit Runes, instead of needing a shield. So that's one way to get around that. The other way to get around that is Defenders. Defenders are kind of dual-purpose items. They allow you to use offensive abilities, so if I put on a Drygor and none of my abilities glow, I can also put on my Defender, and now my dual-wield abilities come back online. So I can use that, but it also allows me to use my shield abilities. Take this off, shield ability goes away. So that's another option. 3 of the 4 combat styles have Defenders, Magic, Ranged, and Melee. Necromancy does not because of Bone Shield. However, you can use Bone Shield with every single combat style, so you don't even need the Defenders anymore. It's just weaker than having a Defender. The other thing to do, obviously, is Shield Swap. So, if I were to use my Magic main and offense, throw my shield in my inventory, I'll grab some runes so we can actually see what that looks like. That is not what I meant to do. Grab my air runes. Air strike. That didn't work. So this is getting into Switchscape very lightly. I know not a lot of people like that. But again, it does help quite a bit at most PVM scenarios. So, we're going to start the Raksha fight. Going to turn on my prayers. Ooh, somebody gave me a vengeance at Wars. So I'm going to anticipate. And see that? I can shield swap, resonance, and take no damage from that ability. Sometimes resonance doesn't heal you on certain special attacks, such because the boss's mechanic is not designed to be countered. But you'll still take 0 damage, so it's very beneficial still. and you can just shield swap and use whatever defensives you want. That's pretty much it, right? Just shield swap, click your defensive, and then swap back to your main and offhand, or your offhand specifically, immediately. You just gotta click it a couple times. You can keybind it if you want to, whatever works. That's a way of getting around not having to use Necromancy runes and not having to fully camp a defender or a shield. The reason I let myself die there was not because it wasn't working, just because kind of already showed off my point. But, yeah, that is how most defensives in the game work. That's how I use them, at least. And that's how they can help you get better at PVM. Let me know if any of this didn't make sense, and I can revisit whatever that was. Peace.